Okay. I'm going to go to Mr. Weber. Mr. Weber, do you have any idea of how much could have been saved by developing this capacity in-house rather than contracting out the development of this app?
Thank you. So I don't. Again, we were not consulted on any part of this process. At no point were us or anyone working at the front line asked how this should be done, sourced, or put together.
Do you see this as a systemic issue at the CBSA where we're seeing inflated contracts going to outside companies when they could be developed internally? And maybe you can speak about what needs to be done to ensure we can deliver services like this in-house and make sure we're supporting unionized workers or hiring more unionized workers.
Again, thank you. That's something that we do support right now. We do need other kinds of technology and other kinds of improvements to our borders. We have borders operating with no x-ray machines. We have marine ports with no boats. The situation in a lot of our ports of entry is dire, and as I said earlier, we do need a lot more frontline officers than we currently have. We'd estimate between 2,000 and 3,000. So when we look at things like ArriveCAN, it's really like, I mean, you're almost putting up wallpaper before you've built the foundation. Our foundation really needs a lot of work, and that foundation is the officers who work the border.
So within CBSA, how can we ensure that IT specialists are being hired as part of the union that works for the government and not hired on contract?
I mean, that's something that I hope the CBSA would look at. It's something that we encourage and push for. Again, we're talking about IT specifically here, but other than IT, I think when we look at figures like $54 million, I mean, that could have done a lot more good than what was done with the ArriveCAN app, which really hasn't done much for us. It hasn't done anything for border security. It's done nothing to speed up processing times at our borders. Yeah,
speaking to that, like how far could $54 million go in addressing staff issues at CBSA, you know, that right now we're experiencing? And the staffing shortages predate the, you know, in terms of predating the pandemic, you can also speak about that issue, never mind.
Yeah.
And can you comment on how many officers are actually needed to address the current staffing issues?
Across the entire country, we estimate between 2,000 and 3,000. If we're looking at a figure like 54 million by our rough math, we could probably hire about 500 additional officers with that, which would be a really good start. Right now, one of the other difficulties we have is that the one college that we do training at can only graduate just under 600 people a year, which really just barely covers attrition. So we don't have any ability right now to get those numbers up to what they need to be at.
How's the morale in the union when they hear that 54 million was spent on an app and 500 more officers could have been hired instead?
I mean, the morale is it's really low. Every port that I go to visit, you would think as a union president, one of the first things that comes up as a topic is union issues, labor issues. We currently have no contract, and I could tell you the members that I speak with across the country, the first thing they say is we need more people. We cannot do our jobs anymore. We have ports operating on almost unlimited overtime. This is not sustainable.
Okay, after the launch of the app, can you describe the experience frontline officers have had with the app?
Extremely negative. We have a really hard time understanding why all of these questions and this app was really implemented the way it was, and all those questions were included in the app, when all we were doing at the border was verifying if someone was vaccinated. That could have been done simply by having a traveler show you their phone. As far as we know, no contact tracing was being done. It was a long, drawn-out process that a lot of people had difficulty completing, which we ended up at the border, as short-staffed as we are, rather than doing everything we could to fulfill our mandate and keep the border safe, we spent all our time almost acting as IT consultants, helping people complete the application.
Unreal. Do you have comments about CBSA's use of technology in general, and you know, has the focus been on improving working conditions for officers and travelers' experience, or do you see technology and automation being used primarily as a cost-cutting measure, which we clearly haven't seen here?
Yeah, it's absolutely being used as a cost-cutting measure. I mean, no piece of technology will speak to a child to ensure that they're traveling with the adult they should be traveling with. They're not going to find the synthetic opioids we want to keep out of Canada. They're not going to find the guns that are being smuggled into Canada. We need people to do all of those things. And it's not the first time that we see these kind of Band-Aid solutions with technology. It's the same principle that was applied when ABC machines were put into airports, PIC machines were put into airports, e-gates, remote reporting that we can't attend. ArriveCAN is just another one of those, and they really provide the worst of both worlds in that they not only reduce security, they also slow things down.
Mr. Weber, I'm afraid that's